Hello and welcome to another episode of A Brief History. Today's episode, Adventure Time. Ready, set, go. May 20th, 2005. Senior students at the California Institute of the Arts are celebrating their graduation day. And among this graduating class was character animation student Pendleton Ward. Having grown up making comics, flip books, and loving shows like The Simpsons, Pendleton Ward was finally ready to head out into the world and make a living in the animation industry. And luckily for him, it would not take long at all for his career to get rolling. For around the same time, one of Ward's student films was showcased at a CalArts screening called The Producer's Show. And in the audience for that screening was a man by the name of Eric Holman, Vice President of Development at the animation company Frederator Studios. Holman was very impressed with Pendleton Ward's film and subsequently reached out to Ward with a request. Ward was asked to pitch an idea for the Nicktoons Network short showcase, Random Cartoons. And of course, being fresh out of college and offered the chance to make something for Frederator and Nicktoons, Pendleton Ward obviously said, "If you want these lumps, you gotta put a ring on it." Pendleton Ward obviously said, "Ew, no." Okay, whatever, fine. And thus, Pendleton Ward got to work. And within a couple of weeks, Ward had fully storyboarded a 7-minute short he called Adventure Time. This short followed the wacky adventures of a boy named Finn and his magical dog, Jake.
Fare thee well, Pen and Jake.
Wait, Pen? Did she just say Pen and Jake? As in, like, Pendleton Ward? Huh. Who knew Adventure Time was a self-insert fic? Alright then, this short followed the adventures of Pen and Jake as they attempt to save the Candy Princess Bubblegum from the evil princess-stealing Ice King. The whole thing came with a bright and exciting, but offbeat and kinda random sense of humor. Even Pen Ward's pitch was slightly unusual, as he opened by performing the short's theme song on a guitar that he just brought in with him. But despite this, or maybe because of this, Frederator liked and approved Pen Ward's pitch. Fast forward to January 11th, 2007, and Nicktoons Network officially airs the fully produced Adventure Time short for the first time. And while this Nicktoons premiere didn't set the world on fire, Adventure Time did manage to snag an Annie nomination later that year. And this is where things get a bit more interesting. You see, in order for Adventure Time to be considered for the Annie Award, the short had to be put online for the judges to watch. So naturally, the Adventure Time short eventually found its way to both YouTube and Google Video. Yeah, Google Video. This was back in the ancient times when phones flipped open, emo hair was all the rage, and almost no YouTube videos made ad revenue. But even so, when Adventure Time was uploaded online, something just kinda clicked and the short began to gain a lot of attention, garnering several 100,000 views in a matter of weeks and boasting over 1 million views by November of 2007. It became clear to Frederator that Adventure Time was just bursting with potential. They could turn this into a series. So they brought the concept to Nickelodeon and they rejected it. 2 times. Yeah, for whatever reason, Nickelodeon was just not interested in producing a full Adventure Time series. And Pen Ward's time working on Random Cartoons was coming to an end, so he had to move on. Luckily, around this time in 2007, Ward landed a job at Cartoon Network working on Thurip Van Orman's The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. On Flapjack, Ward acted as a storyboard artist and writer, often collaborating with fellow CalArts alum, Alex Hirsch. But while Ward was working on this, he and Frederator had not forgotten about Adventure Time. After a year or so had passed, Nickelodeon's right to produce an Adventure Time series had run out, leaving Frederator free to pitch the concept to other networks. Enter Ward's current employer, Cartoon Network, who was very much interested in the series. And by the summer of 2008, Cartoon Network had asked Pendleton Ward to develop an Adventure Time pitch that expanded on what people loved about the Nicktoons short. A couple rounds of pitching later, and in September of 2008, Adventure Time was successfully greenlit for one 26-episode season. A season which officially premiered on April 5th, 2010, exclusively on Cartoon Network. The Adventure Time series retained pretty much everything that made the Nicktoons short a hit, but made everything bigger and changed the main character's name to Finn. Adventure Time was a surreal, colorful, and simplistic comedy fantasy series that was unlike pretty much anything else that Cartoon Network had seen at that point. And this was reflected in the show's reception. Adventure Time was pretty much an instant hit for Cartoon Network, with the series premiere scoring 2.5 million viewers in ratings. And Adventure Time's success was a much bigger deal at the time than you might think. You see, by 2010, Cartoon Network's focus had not been on animation for quite some time. The channel had been pouring more and more resources into live-action shows while only producing a handful of original cartoons. So when Adventure Time premiered, it was an incredible breath of fresh air for the channel. And because of all this, a second season was pretty much inevitable, being renewed shortly after the first episode was released. Premiering on October 11th, 2010, Adventure Time Season 2 saw the show continue to grow in both success and creativity. But it was not stopping there. The show had basically solidified itself as Cartoon Network's newest flagship show and would go on to see several more seasons, each one expanding the lore of the show's universe, experimenting with different kinds of storytelling, and ultimately taking the show in more interesting and mature directions. Fast forward to November 12th, 2012, and Adventure Time was now entering an extended 5th season, double the length of any of the previous 4 seasons. The show was quite literally bigger than ever. But Pendleton Ward, who had been running the show since 2010, was kinda starting to feel exhausted. Ward just wasn't enjoying being in charge of a show as massive as Adventure Time and made a pretty surprising decision. Partway through season 5, Pendleton Ward officially stepped down as showrunner of Adventure Time. Now, he wasn't leaving the show. In fact, he had stayed on the crew helping out with writing and storyboards for quite a while after stepping down. Plus, the man who took Ward's place as showrunner, Adam Muto, had been working on Adventure Time for pretty much just as long as Ward, having helped create the original Nicktoons short back in 2006. So yeah, Adventure Time was in safe hands. In fact, after Muto took over, things for the series really started to pick up steam in terms of plot and character development. The show was actually getting pretty dark, existential, and at times really serious, without sacrificing the more lighthearted moments. And with the seasons that followed, Adventure Time only continued to become more and more plot-driven with the introduction of the mini-series format. Starting in season 7, large portions of Adventure Time seasons were comprised of 8-episode strings that each revolved around one overarching storyline. I'm not gonna spoil anything, obviously, but let's just say that Adventure Time was no simple comedy show anymore. But keep in mind, at this point, Adventure Time had been on the air for 6 years and was approaching its 8th season. There are very, very few shows out there that can last that long. And you kinda had to wonder, would Cartoon Network ever end Adventure Time? Or would it just keep going and going for years like SpongeBob or The Simpsons? Well, that question was answered for good on September 29th, 2016, when Cartoon Network officially announced that Adventure Time would be coming to an end sometime in 2018. So when Adventure Time's 10th season premiered in September of 2017, we all knew that this season would be the show's last. And just this past week, on September 3rd, 2018, Cartoon Network aired Come Along With Me, a 4-part epic Adventure Time finale. So just like that, after more than 8 years, Adventure Time was over. But this is Adventure Time we're talking about. We all know this show's impact and legacy does not end here. There are countless cartoons on the air today that more or less owe their entire existence to Adventure Time. And many of Cartoon Network's most beloved modern shows were created by members of the Adventure Time crew, including Rebecca Sugar's Steven Universe, Pat McHale's Over the Garden Wall, Ian Jones Cordy's OKKO Let's Be Heroes, and more. Adventure Adventure Time was nothing short of revolutionary for the television animation industry. In the era of Cartoon Network basically shunning animation, a sudden rush of unique and innovative cartoons flooded in, brought the network to new heights, and sparked what many refer to as an all-out renaissance for Cartoon Network. And leading that pack of new shows was Adventure Time. This might sound extreme, but I don't think it's that far-fetched to say Adventure Time is the most important cartoon of the 2010s. And even now that the show is over, I think it's safe to say that Adventure Time's influence will continue to be felt for years and years to come. Thanks for watching, guys. DFTBA.